Tombouctou yene faso ye. Gode minzeno le kazir lala. Badinha duwe Tombouctou e. Sindia duwe malibaye. Yankalu yene faso ye.
Okay, welcome to today's show. I'm going to be doing the first part of the show. I'm Brother Rakib. The topic that we're going to be discussing, the Quran and the miseducation of the Negro Muslims. Before I begin, first let me put it out that this is no way to disrespect any of the brothers and sisters who practice Islam. It is to try and get our brothers and sisters who are caught up in this mainstream ideology of Islam to scrutinize the things that they are being told and putting their faith in. So what I want to do is I want to start out with some logics dealing with just our intelligence and understanding the Quran and as it relates to history, nature, and the universe. The Quran, as well as the Bible, teaches us that in the Quran, in 15:26, 2 and 30, other verses, gives us a story similar to the Bible, some exact, but it tells us that the story is given that Elias gathered the angels together, and he was telling the angels that he was about to create the Khalifa, meaning the successor or ruler, somebody he's going to put in authority. And he tells the angels that when he complete the creation of this Khalifa, that they were to bow down to him. So this tells us the importance of this Khalifa, this human being that the Creator is about to create. So here's the first logical conclusion. We know Adam and his wife, as the Quran states, or Adam and Eve, as the Bible states, according to Scripture, were the first humans to be created. We know that the stories are symbolic because we know that scientifically the human beings did not populate from one man and one woman. We know that. But the key to it is that we do know the Africans were the first people created. We was the first humans to evolve. And we know that it was the Africans, the Homo sapiens sapiens, who were on the earth, the only people on the earth, for thousands of years. And that's just scientific facts. Even the European anthropologists, scholars, scientists, all agree. It is a known fact today that the Africans were the first people to populate the earth and migrate out of Africa and populate the entirety of the earth. And we know that it was only our ancestors, the Africans, who were here on the earth for thousands of years. So if we want to believe in the scripture dealing with the story of Adam, his wife, or Adam and Eve, and their descendants, then we would have to realize, we would have to use our intelligence, our common sense, to know that when the scriptures are making reference to Adam, creation of Adam, and the progeny or prosperity of Adam, his children, then those verses in the Quran, as well as the Bible, would have to have only been in reference to those people. Now, I said that to say this. You'll hear many Muslims say that all of the prophets were Muslims. They'll tell you Adam was a Muslim. Noah was a Muslim. Moses was a Muslim. They'll tell you that. But they'll tell you Islam started with the Prophet Muhammad. And this is the point in question that I want my brothers and sisters to use their intellect and quit believing what the Eurasians or European people who are calling themselves Muslims lead them by or mislead them by. So what we're going to do on this show is we're going to be introducing Quranic verses, and we're going to be showing how the language in the Quran, not the interpolations, not the interpretations, or their translations, but reading the Quran in its language, in its grammatical structure, to show how different the understanding of these ayats will be. The European so-called Arabs, they do a lot of manipulating verses in the Quran, trying to get it to conform to their made-up history and commentaries and tales, what they call a hadith, which they are convincing our brothers and sisters to believe that the only way that you can understand the Quran is believing in what they're calling the Sunnah of the Prophet, where that is nowhere mentioned in the Quran, the Sunnah of the Prophet. The Sunnah of Allah, the Sunnah of Moses, the Sunnah of the messengers is mentioned, but there is no Sunnah of the Prophet mentioned in the Quran nowhere. There are no hadiths or writings that they can say is authentic. But I don't want to get off that point. I want to get back to the point. I want to give you an example of what I mean, how they manipulate verses to try to get you to conform to their perspective. For instance, there's a lot of verses in the Quran that is not about the Quran. But the way that they interpolate the verses would make you think it was in reference to the Quran. So I want to deal with one of them right quick. I'm going to deal with a verse. It's going to be Surah 2. And this is just for an example. It's going to be Surah 2, Ayat 2, that says, Dhalika al-Kitabu la rayba fihi hudan lil muttaqin. In this particular verse, Surah 2, verse 2, if you have a Quran, or you can go on Google and you can look the verse up. They translate the verse, this is the book, no doubt in it, a guide, right, to those who fear Allah. This is Yusuf Ali's translation. He wants you to think that this verse is in reference to the Quran. But here we have what we call a demonstrative pronoun. It's a demonstrative pronoun for something at a distance. It's not a pronoun dealing with something near you. It deals with something that is far at a distance. So it's not saying this Al-Kitab scripture, la, no, rayba, doubt, fihi, in it, hudan, a guide, lil, for those who fear Allah, because the word Allah is not even in the ayat. But it's in reference, the story is about the children of Israel, and it's in reference to their scripture, the scripture in which they had. And it says that scripture, no doubt, in it, a guidance for those who preserve themselves, who safeguard themselves. It's telling the children of Israel that the scripture which they had, right, if they used it, right, that it would protect them, that it would guide them, it would be a safeguard for them. But they want you to think that it's in reference to the Quran. These are interpolated verses in which they try to manipulate many of our brothers and sisters, because they know that those brothers and sisters do not know the language. But I've studied this language for about 35 years now. A little over 35 years. And I have seen the manipulations and interpretations, the misinterpretations and the interpolations in which they use to try and convert you to their particular schools of thought. I just wanted to give you an example of that. That's not where I'm actually going, but to give you an example of what we're going to be dealing with, the type of mentality that we're going to be dealing with. See, what we have to understand as descendants of African people, we're African people. The scripture talks about Adam and his children. The scripture tells us in the book of Genesis, in the Bible, tells us that Adam was created from the dirt of the earth, black mud, black dirt. And that God shaped and formed him and blew into his nostrils, and he became a living soul. That's what the Bible tells us. So we know the word Adamah in the Hebrew language means black dirt. Just as in the Quran in 1529, when it talks about Allah gathering the angels, 1529, when Allah is talking about after he completed shaping and forming the human being, he would breathe into him of his soul. So both the Quran and the Bible tells us that the children of Adam has the soul of God within them. So we are a living soul from God. And it's in reference to the children of Adam. It doesn't say that about any other people other than the children of Adam. Now, the Quran is very specific in the creation of Adam. When in the Quran it says, وَلَكَدْ خَلَقْنَا And certainly we're creating out of insane. And certainly, while the cat and certainly a lot now, we're creating right, out of insane, a human being. It says from Masnoon. And this is in the Quran, 15:26. This is chapter 15, verse 26 in the Quran. And it says, What lakad alaqna al insana min salsalin min hama'in masnunin. That says directly, and for certain, and certainly, we created the human black. So the Quran tells us that it created the human being black. The human being Adam and his wife. Adam and his wife are the human being Adam, the black human beings. The Quran tells us he created them black. So it is logical, reasonable, intelligent to understand that the first people on the earth, according to science, as the Quran explains, were black people. And if the Quran and the Bible call the first people Adam and Eve, or Adam and his wife, it's in reference to the black man and the black woman. And it says that the Creator placed his soul in that black human being. And we became a living soul. We are living souls of God. And that in itself says a lot to us. And as I mentioned earlier, when even those Eurasian and European people who call themselves Arabs and call themselves Muslims tell you that Adam was a Muslim, then you should have enough common sense to know that Islam didn't start with the Prophet. There was no such thing as pre-Islam. If Adam was a Muslim, Noah was a Muslim, all of those prophets and messengers before the Prophet were Muslims, how did Islam start with the Prophet Muhammad? I want our brothers and sisters to start using their own mind and stop letting these foreign people who the Quran displays as munafiquns guide them, mislead them. So we're going to be doing quite a few series on the Quran, the miseducation of the Negro Muslim throughout. So this is just a basic introduction to our podcast. The name of the show is called A New Awakening. I have my other brother, Minister Luke, who will be doing the second part to the introduction. So he's going to kind of give you some examples from the Quran dealing with the same topic, miseducation of the Negro Muslim. I'll basically be doing the historical parts as well as breaking down the language in the Quran, its structure, its grammar, to show that what they have translated is not what the Quran is saying. The Quran is speaking directly to the children of Adam, directly to us. And we have to understand that this way of life is not a religion, it's a way of life. It's called Deen al-Islam, the path to peace, the path to submission. We have to understand that this is about us. We have to understand that before the Euro-Asian or European people entered into Arabia, the original Arabs was Africans. They even tell you in their writings that the prophet was a progeny of Ishmael through his son Kedar. And we know Kedar was an African, so we know the prophet, alayhi wasallam, was an African. If he was the descendant of Kedar, you can read in any material, even the Eurasian people, even some of them will tell you that Kedar was a black African. The Bible tells you he was a black African. Our historical records will point to him being an African. The reason that they are able to slide in and get in position is because we opened the door for them by not educating ourselves in the language, in the true history. So with that, I'm not going to carry on here. I just wanted to put that little intro out, and we have Brother Luke, aka Ghetto Sage, who's going to bring some more astounding information in. He basically kind of deals with psychology, and he is clinical on it. So with that, I'm going to close out this first part of the introduction. Hopefully, you watch the video to the end. You'll see the information where you can go to our website and other platforms where our videos will be shown. So with that, thank you for the opportunity, and may the blessings and peace of the universe be upon you.
Blessings, family, peace, and blessings. I'm the Ghetto Sage, and this is the Ghetto Sage Perspective, dealing with scripture from a physical, spiritual, and a divine perspective. And let me give you a little background on myself here briefly. I'm known as the Ghetto Sage amongst my peers, those brothers who I put all the work in with and who actually studied with for the last 25 plus years. I'm a student of the Quran. And one fascinating thing I found out about this scripture is the best thing you can do and the best feeling in the world is to understand this scripture from its original language. That's the best feeling in the world, because you're using your own independent mind. And also, in study groups, y'all are using your own minds, so y'all are exchanging information and y'all are sharpening each other at the same time. And when I say it's nothing more powerful than understanding the scripture for yourself. I got an example that I'm going to use. Now keep in mind, looking at it from an African lens, based on the same history and the same experiences. You have to be dealing with people who share the same experiences and the same history as you, and has their origins from the same geographical location that you have your origins from initially. One day, I just did a survey on some brothers just to see how many brothers understood what they say they put their faith, their trust, they rely on, they depend on. Just to see how many of those brothers understood themselves from a physical, spiritual, and a divine perspective, what the scripture said about them, and when the scripture was talking to them, whether it was a just plain statement, whether it was a rhetorical question. And out of about 10, 15 brothers, neither one of those brothers could do that. So what conclusion that brought me to was they were too religious minded. They got off on the wrong foot dealing with the scripture, which fortunately, that's what I didn't do. Fortunately, when I saw Brother Whitmore and I inquired as to what it was and you know, the language and so on and so forth, and he gave me a good understanding. But my thing was, at that time, if this is what God is saying to me, and this is the translation, then I need to find out what God is saying to me for myself. So that's kind of like what started my journey up to this point right here. Up to this point. So like I said, I'm a student of the language, and I deal with something every day. Just, you know, run something by in my mind every day in reference to it, and the understanding is in real times, like now, 20 and 22. If I can't make it relevant to what's going on now, then to me, I think it's irrelevant. If it don't apply now, I'm gonna give you an example of what I'm talking about. When I say from a physical, spiritual, and divine perspective, the Quran does a brief example of what we miss when we don't understand the language. That's no knock against nobody. It takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes commitment, and it takes work to get this understanding right here. Got to understand. At one point, I didn't even know what a noun was. So you take me for an example. And I had to get an English grammar book and go over the English grammar to where until I got the gist of it. Then I got the Arabic grammar book and Arabic dictionary. But hey, it was a struggle, but I was determined. And it's something about, I don't know what it is, it was just something about psychology that in my early stages of grasping the Arabic grammar, I started looking for all the words that dealt with, you know, psychology, spirituality, divineness, you know, words that they use for the physical man. And I come up with a total, I think, 7 or 8 words. And here's an example of the profoundness of the scripture when you understand it in the language that you understand it in. And we're going to use, for the example, 28:7 through 10. And that's dealing with the mother of Moses. Now, if you can recall, and you have both stories in the Bible and in the Quran, if you can recall the situation at that time, you know, they was under slavery. They was enslaved. And policies or the laws at that time was to kill off the male children 2 years and under and spare the female children, the females. It probably fell in the line of prophecy that anytime you oppress a group of people, at some point a Messiah would rise up out that group of people. And me personally, I think that's why they was killing off the males and saving the females, the female children, because you can. It's like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said a while back. Peace and blessings be on that mighty brother. He said, when you corrupt a woman, you corrupt a nation. And that is so true. But back to the times of the mother of Moses, what she was actually pondering or reflecting or thinking of in the form of a supplication, whether she was conscious of that fact or not, was what she was going to do with baby Moses when it got to the point where she could no longer hide him from authorities. And as she was hoping, wishing for some form of direction or some form of guidance, she didn't understand that was in the form of a supplication that went out into the universe. And the universe responded, sending her what we call wahyi, divine inspiration. So the story goes, and we revealed to Moses' mother saying, give him suck. Then when you thirst for him, cast him into the river, and fear not nor grieve. We shall bring him back to thee and make him one of the messengers. Now, like I say, she sent it out when she was conscious of it or not into the universe, and the universe responded with this inspiration, explaining to her what to do. Now, in the Arabic, the next ayat, it's in 10, I believe. Yeah, it's in 10. He used two words. This is one of them right here. We'll be quick because I don't want to run out of time. The word is called. This is the word they translate. Most translators use for heart. Most translators use that word for heart. Anytime you see heart in the Quran, the word heart, it's going to be this word, which is actually dealing with your intellect. It's dealing with your intellect, your logics, I'm going to put logistics, and reasoning. You get the picture? This is we talking about here, your seat of understanding. And I'm quite sure y'all can come up with several more words to define this. Seat of understanding. So as you can see, if you just read the word heart in English and don't have no understanding of Arabic, then you miss this. You miss which heart that it's talking about. That's one heart. The other heart that is used, and both of them are in the same ayah. The other heart is, you know, excuse my writing, but it's legible. You still can read it, I think. This one is if Fuad. They translate that as heart also. They translate it as heart also. But this heart is dealing with your feelings, emotions. You see what I'm saying? So if we didn't understand the language, this is what we miss. We don't know which heart it's talking about in English over here. We don't know which heart, so we got to assume, and it says assumption is no substitute for the truth. So you can't assume. But if that's how we got to go on, then that's all we can do. Is, it say, like right here, for instance, it says, and the heart of Moses' mother was free from anxiety, but that heart he's using is fuad. It says she would have almost disclosed it had we not strengthened her heart. So they in that ayat, and this is ayat 10, you got the word heart twice. So without this understanding, how are we supposed to understand that? How are we supposed to get the impactfulness up out the ayat? When she first received the wahyi, she received it through this heart, through her car, intellect, logics, and reasoning, seat of understanding. She comes in, she processes the information, and then she follows the guidance. We do it every day. So it got to the point to where she could no longer hold on to him without, her being seen with it. And based on the laws, she have to follow the guidance and put her faith in her trust into the guidance. So she made the little boat, the little vehicle, put little Moses in it, put him in the thing, let him roll on. See, fear nor grieve. But she's still watching him though. You know what I'm saying? Also, his daughter, his sister, is also watching from a distance. So Pharaoh's wife scooped him up. She liked what she saw. She's a beautiful little child, She got her bodyguards with her, her officers with her, whatever. She said, slay him not. We ain't gonna kill him. We're gonna hold on to him. I'm gonna make him my son. And maybe he'll be some use to us. But her perception of a divine plan, there was no connection and no understanding based on her perception that this was all part of a divine plan. So she kept it. He ended up being a downfall later on. We understand that. But the mother of Moses, let's get back to this, was acting from here and followed the plan to that point. And when she saw him pick him up out the water, then as a woman, any female animal, or whatever the case may be, see anything, any type of danger or anything that could harm, kill, or whatever to the child or the cub or whatever, then they gonna respond. So she was about to respond. That's what the Quran said. She almost disclosed the case, almost disclosed it, almost gave up the plan. It said, had we not strengthened, and the word they use in Arabic for strengthened, or they translated strengthened, is this word. Rabatna. Rabat, N-A. The N-A is the we. It's the personal pronoun on the end of the word. Rabatna. It's just the pronoun we. It said, had we not, definition. Most translators use this word here. Strengthen. Excuse me. Most of them use the word strengthen. I choose myself to use the word reinforce. past tense verb, so it's reinforced. Reason being, I use the word reinforced, meaning something was done again, is that she received the divine inspiration with instructions, and she followed those instructions until she saw what she perceived as danger to little Moses. So she went from acting from this heart to acting from this heart, or feelings and emotions. You know what I'm saying? She just disregarded the plan that he's coming back. Don't fear nor grieve. We're going to send him back to you, and he's going to be one of the messengers. So this just goes to show you the power of the emotions, whether they're natural or unnatural emotions. So the emotions is one took control, and she almost, hey, say y'all, that's my baby, or whatever the case may have been, And I'm quite sure she probably won't have to get ignorant after that once they find out that, she was the one who had the baby. And reinforced, had we not, they say strengthened, but I choose to use the word reinforced because it's a lot clearer. Reinforce what? Reinforce the first understanding that we're forced upon her, that we sent to her through inspiration, upon her call, upon her heart the first time, the intellectual heart the first time. We have to reinforce that understanding, so she called herself. You know what I'm saying? So we kind of overrode what the emotion was about to call her to do, cause her to do. So we overrode that, and we reinforced the understanding back here again. So she called herself. And then the story went on, and, the daughter said she knew somebody who would take care of little Moses, and it ended up being a mother. And she brought the baby back. He come back to her so that she might know that the promise of Allah is true. That's what the scriptures say. You understand what I'm saying? But that's just an understanding that, now when you look at it from that perspective, then you see the profoundness of it. The impactfulness of it, when you can see it like this, rather than just reading it, and the heart of Moses' mother was free. She would have almost disclosed it had we not strengthened her heart. So you got heart twice, but you can't get no understanding out of that. And it's a lot of other verses that deals with situations and stories similar to this that use those same words. So me personally, I'm a foundationalist. I like to help brothers and sisters foundate themselves, get to understand themselves from this scripture from a physical, spiritual, and a divine perspective. And once they get that understanding, you really don't even have to even know Arabic, but it may just spark or inspire you to want to understand it for yourself and go a little bit deeper into the grammar to where it would leave no doubt as to your understanding. I'll give you another perfect example. I'm just going to put this word up here, and then I'm going to get ready to close. This word this word here is in 2 and 7. They say those who fear Allah. I don't even have to go to it. But this is the word right here. And the word is T-A-Q-I-Y-N. There's other ways you can spell it. You can go E-E-N-Q-E-E-N. It's the same thing. Like the long E sound. Mutakim. Mutakim. Now the root word, where they get fear from, I don't know. Y'all might need to ask one of your local imams, or when you're in your study group, somebody got a grasp of the language, where did they get those who fear Allah from? First of all, this is a word that expresses what they call the 8th stem, the 8th verbal stem. Just abbreviate, just so we can move right along. 8th verbal stem, which gives you the meaning of doing something for self. for self-benefit. It's telling you that this group, this Mutakin, is doing something for themselves. And it ain't fearing the law. What they're doing is built in the root meaning of this word, which is, this is the root meaning of the word. It's wakad. That's the root meaning of the word. Wakad. Wakad means to